Hello, St. Louis sports fans, and welcome back to your favorite sports podcast here in St. Louis, the Lounatics. I'm your host, Tyler, this week, along with my friend and co-host, John, who is sporting quite the nice looking Blues beanie this evening. Also, I really like the scarf you're wearing.
Thank you. I really like the scarf I'm wearing too. But also, the one piece of my outfit that you did not comment on is, did you notice the shirt I'm wearing?
No.
Oh, let me stand up. If you're watching the YouTube video, you'll see it. If you're listening, Tyler will describe it to you. But
it's the shirt that says "The Open Cup Matters."
Available through Olive and York, and money goes to charity. And if I was a better social media content creator, I would tell you what charity. I know the Santos organized it, and I don't know the charity off the top of my head.
I believe it's Cardinal Glennon.
No, this one is something to do with a park. I'll pull it up while we talk.
One of them recently did one for Glennon.
Yeah, I saw that one. But yeah, that was something else.
No, you're good. Also, for those of you who are not watching, because while it is the day after, it's still close enough to St. Patrick's Day for me. I'm wearing my Celtic jersey that I got back in high school because during my fun weight loss journey, I realized that I can actually fit in this thing again for the first time in like 7 years. So that's exciting and good news for me, I guess. While we're you found something. Yeah. I can see it in your eyes.
It goes to help fund Marquette Park in Dutchtown South.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Now you flashed it up there. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking it's the Four Hands chocolate milk stout, but it's the Almond Joy knockoff inspired one, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's my least favorite of their winter variety pack they made because I'm not a huge coconut fan, but it is quite good. Unfortunately, you can't drink it, which I feel a little bad about, but life is hard.
It's fine. I'm sticking with my St. Patrick's Day theme, and I'm going with Jameson and ginger beer.
Classic.
I'm a classy guy. Speaking of classy things that happened, how about the Blues over the last 4 games?
4-game win streak. It's nice. And not just any teams either. There's some quality wins in that stretch too. Starting with the Bruins, who we dominated.
And again, who doesn't love to beat up on the Bruins? I mean, they're from Boston. Yeah, it's good.
We hate Boston. It's a very unusual, unnatural rivalry, as we broke down last week, the week before. But, if you're from St. Louis, you get it.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. So here's something fun. We spend a lot of time talking about plus minuses and picking on people. So yesterday, the Blues did not start off hot. It was the second game of a back-to-back. But we are playing the Anaheim Ducks, who are not a good team right now, probably because they stopped being the Mighty Ducks and using that 90s cartoon theme style stuff that they used to have. That was really the decline of the Anaheim Ducks, if we're being honest. But
I've made my feelings on that logo clear in a previous episode.
So we looked kind of crappy. We gave up the first goal. Prior to last night, we'd only won 7 games all season if the other team scored first, which is not great odds for us. But we did come back and we ended up winning the game 4-2. Robert Thomas, I believe, had 2 goals last night. 2 power play goals, maybe, or a power play goal and an assist. Maybe that's what it is. He had a goal, but I think maybe it was a goal and an assist. 2 points on the power play.
2 goals.
Was it 2 goals? Okay.
2 goals.
Look at his plus minus.
Both were power play goals.
He was -2. We won 4-2. He scored 2 goals. Did you know that if you give up a goal in the power play, whether it be shorthanded or the other team's on a power play and gets a goal, it does impact your plus minus negatively. But if you score a goal on the power play, it does not positively impact your plus minus, which therefore skews those numbers for people who are very good on the power play.
Huh. It also skews it against people who are like already on it a lot too. Like the guys who are on the power play or the penalty kill, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, just something interesting to think about. I was thinking about that last night when I was looking at the statistics from the game after the game. But again, honest to God, when I watched the first period of that game last night, I legitimately thought, awesome, here's another Columbus Blue Jackets game where we start to look like we can play some hockey and then we run into a bad team and fall apart against a bad team. But we made some changes. Things came back around. I think one of the big changes, the power play looked atrocious. Anybody who was watching the game against the Ducks can tell you how atrocious and terrible it looked. But something Bannister did was he changed up the power play. He pulled Krug and Kyrou off of the power play first team, and he put on Falk, and then he put on Braden Shen onto that first line.
And that was a mid-game change he made last night? Is that what you're saying?
A mid-game change, yeah. So the first period, that's how it was going. Third period, after making said changes, we got 3 power play goals.
You know, it's kind of like when you have an extra player, you should score more.
Correct. You would think that. But what's really interesting,
it makes sense.
The thing that, and I was listening to the post-game interviews with Bannister, and this is something that really made me kind of think through stuff, was he was asked, well, what did they bring that was different energy wise, whatever else, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't know that it was an energy thing. He's like, but I was watching our power play and we weren't getting pucks to the net and people weren't making quick decisions and moving the puck. So I made a change. And the guys who came in were making quick decisions and moving the puck. So it worked out, right? It was very just like matter of fact. It wasn't like harping on anybody. He didn't throw anybody under the bus. But what it really, when I started thinking back to a lot of games that I've watched this year on our power play, we have some guys who love to just hold the puck and wait for that beautiful, perfect shot and just whatever. And it's just not going to be there. The other player last night that really stood out to me was Jake Neighbors again, who also got another goal. But more importantly for Neighbors is just his willingness as a young guy to do the dirty work and get in front of the net. On one of Robert Thomas's goals, was like, I mean, right in front of the goalie. Looked like he was about to get his clock cleaned, but completely shielded the goalie all the way through to where he never got a good read on Thomas's shot. And so he was not named any of the 3 stars of the game, if you will. But to me, he stood out immensely.
Yeah. What else has stood out to you from this 4-game winning streak? Have you gotten to watch any of the other games?
Yeah, I've actually watched almost all of. I have not watched all of them start to finish, but I've seen at least a couple periods. I've had a couple periods of every game. The one thing that I've noticed is, Falk looks healthy, which is huge. Falk looks healthier than he's been in a long time, which makes a big difference for our defense. We've got Matt Kessel, looks like a legitimate NHL defenseman. And I think that has helped a lot as well. And then the other things that I'm seeing is those second and third line pairings playing up to their ability. Zach Bolduc has looked really good recently. He's made a lot of, he's had a couple assists here and there, but just the way he's playing, his intensity, the energy he's bringing is awesome, and needed for sure. But I mean, up and down the lineup as a whole, there's a lot of guys that are playing good minutes that we weren't getting good minutes out of earlier in the year. The one thing that I will note is I think Kyrou's got 3 points maybe in this stretch, 2 or 3 points. But it comes down to, it's the Messi effect, right? If you are not if you're skating slow or waiting and picking up the puck and scoring goals, nobody's going to care if you were slacking off a little on defense. But if you're not, everyone's going to notice. So Messi gets away with it because the guy's a freak, right? In soccer, comparing soccer to hockey. But because he produces offensively, people don't care if there's times that he's taking stretches off defensively. Kyrie doesn't have that because he's not consistently putting up points. The other fun thing is saw a statistic, and Bucci had his third straight 50-point season for the Blues since he's come over to start his Blues career. And he's the first player to do that since Ryan O'Reilly. To start his Blues career.
That, right. When you said that, I was like thinking it was going to be like a much longer time ago.
No, it's not.
Like, and then you said Ryan O'Reilly, and I'm like, I mean, that makes sense. But like the way you said that made it sound like it was going to be someone from like 20 or 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, I had quite the build up there.
You did. I didn't even know where you were going with it, and here we are.
Okay, so I have not done the math, but I believe we're like right at a 90-point pace right now after the win last night.
About 90 and a half, which of course is not possible, but still right below. But
you don't tell me what's possible.
Do that. Math is possible. Okay. I mean, we play. Who do we play tomorrow? The Avs. Is that right?
Play the Avs at home.
We could be.
They're a good team, so got to be ready to go. But big game for us.
Right.
We're 4 points back of the Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights. We just got to catch one of those two.
Right, but if I remember right, the
Kings are. I think the Vegas Golden Knights. I think the Golden Knights are tied with the Kings. The Kings hold the tiebreaker over the Vegas Golden Knights. So we're technically 4 points back of those two teams.
Right.
And then the Predators are like 7 points ahead.
Right. And they're first in the wild card right now. The Predators are, which is what I have been looking at. But I see what you're saying about the Kings. 4 points back. Both those teams do have a game in hand on us. So that is something that, keep an eye on. They also have
to play each other, I think, a couple times. At least once, maybe twice, I think, down the stretch. So that's good for us.
That is very good for us. Hopefully they can cannibalize some points off each other. I'm pulling up their schedules right now that you've said that, because I really want to know. They do play Nashville as well. This is the Knights. No games against LA.
Okay, so they are done against each other then.
Right. Go ahead.
Maybe they just recently played a game. I thought they had a game coming up against each other, but I was wrong. It's fine. It's not the first or the last time I'll be wrong on this podcast.
Yeah, you're forgiven. But
all right.
Yeah, so, I don't know. The Blues have been better. It's been exciting. They could still sneak it in. You could still win the bet. There's hope.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to buy you beer again. So let's go Blues. Or in this case, let's go booze.
Let's go booze. Yeah. Damn it. Sorry, I had a concussion recently.
Here's, you know what? I'm going to jump ahead for a minute because I have to point this out. You got hit in the face with a soccer ball in a rec league co-ed indoor game.
I did.
And potentially got a concussion.
Potentially got a concussion. Yes. Of which I did not tell my mom, and she's going to find out from this.
Thomas Totland got his face stomped on with a cleat.
It's true.
Wrapped it up with some red tape so that the blood didn't show through, and then rolled out in the second half when he took that header, that like long.
I know.
I mean, there was a line drive, and then freaking just hit it with his head, and I was like, "Dude, you had space. Just play it off your chest."
Yeah, I know. That was like the first header I think he took after that.
I think it may have been the only one he took after that.
Right. You can't wrap a concussion, first off.
The gash on his head he wrapped, though.
I know. Like
from the cleats.
Like the camera guy caught they switched to it for like half a second, and then they were like, "Oh no, delete, switch back," because like blood just like running down his face. But anyway, I did not tell my mom that I possibly had a concussion. She's going to find out from this. I'm sure I will get a very angry text as soon as she listens to it.
Here's another fun thing from the weekend. Speaking of Apple camera guys, first of all, I feel like their camera guys have been off this year as a whole.
Awful.
But there was a stretch, and I want to say it was the DC game, and one of the Miami guys got fouled. It was a soft foul, but it was definitely a foul. And you just hear the DC fans going, "He fucking fell over," like 3 times before they cut to a different camera and shut the mic off. So like,
right.
Just I'm like, if anybody was watching that one live.
Right. There were some weak fouls in our game too. Some weak yellows on both sides. But do we want to just jump in the city, or do we want to go to the Cardinals first? Our outline has the Cardinals first, but we can do either one. We're already talking soccer.
Yeah, let's just jump into city because it was a fun game. It was an exciting game. So if there's one thing that we've learned when St. Louis City plays the LA Galaxy, it's that it's going to be exciting, and it's likely going to end in a tie.
Always. And it's a sequential tie, right? There's a pattern to it. The first game was 1-1, then it was 2-2, then Saturday night was 3-3. So if you guys want to line the bet, the next LA Galaxy game for St. Louis City will be 4-4. You heard it here first. You're welcome. Just give us a 10% cut of your winnings. Thank you.
So it was a game, the first 10 to 15 minutes of both halves, I felt like we were trying to find ourselves.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And then once we did, we looked better, but no Leuven pulled his hammy. No Tim Parker had some back tightness. You lose 2 of your essentially, I mean, when I think of like who captains our team, obviously Berkey is the captain, but I think of Parker and Leuven as like the generals on the field along with him, right?
Right. Well, and Parker is officially vice captain too, FYI.
Oh, God.
For any who didn't know that.
Vice captain. That's quite not, I
basically, if Berkey can't yell all the way down or doesn't want to leave to go talk to the refs, Parker is the guy who is supposed to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Papa Parker. But I think, I was concerned a little bit. The only solace I had is knowing that we do have some decent center backs. And Ostrak looked really good against Houston in the Champions Cup. So, so I felt like, okay, I thought we had some subs there, but, again, there was points that I was like frustrated because we should have taken leads or done certain things, but without Berkey, we would not have been in that game.
No way at all. Like, I mean, okay, first off, he was first team for Team of the Week for MLS as the goalkeeper, despite letting in 3 goals. Like, shouldn't even have been in like conversation for that in theory. And that just goes to tell you like how good he really was. The other thing about it, and I think, if you think about Galaxy and you think about St. Louis, both of those Galaxy, here's a better way to say it. Galaxy are like the team that describes like how MLS's teams are built. They are very, very strong offensively in the attack moving forward, and they are pretty bad in defense. And I know that sounds like, well, okay, so are we. For us, it's more scheme based. Like we leave holes open, and good fast players can exploit that. As happened on Saturday night. They're just bad defensively. Like that's all there is to it. Like they're a possession-based team that can counter, but they're just bad defensively. That's all. That's it.
Yeah, I think and again, not all of our listeners, follow soccer and things, and so to to break that down, right? I mean, so what John's talking about is St. Louis City plays the press, which is one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting style of soccer to watch as a spectator. Yes. So when you're playing Gegenpress, which is the German style of press, is you wait for those negative passes, that negative space by pressuring, and then your whole team shifts forward and pressures to try to cut off the next line, the next pass, etc. That first goal was a perfect example of that. They passed back, we pressured, they put a negative pass back. Ostrak pressured hard, timed it right, got the ball, and just put it in the back of the net, did it all himself. But that it's an exciting style of soccer because our team never stops. We're always running, we're always moving. And while, yes, we do leave those gaps defensively, usually we have the defensive backs that can make up for that. As long as they're anticipating and are prepared ahead of time. We talked about Totland's head, but Totland was still busting his ass, and he's one of the top 3 fastest guys out on the field, even with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, even with that. Yeah, I think he recorded the second fastest sprint of the game. Third fastest was Yarrow.
Third fastest. Yarrow was just a smidge. I think Totland was like 19.9 and Yarrow was 21.1 at the end of the game, looking at the stats. Right. And then
Paintsill was 21.3.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like right ahead of Yarrow. Yeah, because I remember it was one of our guys. I couldn't remember if it was Yarrow or Totland was right behind him, but like it was like sneaky fast compared to Paintsill's. That was just, obvious. But I will say, as far as Totland went, the first goal, okay, we all love watching his slide tackles come in. But the problem whenever you do so many slide tackles is occasionally you're going to get burned on them if you don't get the ball. That's kind of what happened on the first goal. There's some other stuff that happened behind, but if Totland makes that tackle, it doesn't happen at all. I think that happened a few times during the game.
He had his head stomped on. Lay off. No,
that's true. That's true. He did have his head gashed open by a metal cleat.
He had a concussion recently.
Potentially a recent concussion. The real question is, do you think he's going to get a scar from this?
God, I hope so. That'd be sick.
I hope your face is permanently disfigured.
No, I want it to like go away, but I want there to be like at least like a mark there. So like all the City fans can start like drawing like a red line on their forehead for the games.
You're going to be seeing a lot of red headbands. Trust me. You're going to be seeing a lot of red headbands. And, I'm just saying, Totland stole the idea from me because I wore a red headband first.
Yeah, his was more function over fashion. Yours was more fashion over function.
It was all fashion. All fashion. There was zero function to that headband. It was so cold.
When I look at you, I don't always think fashion, right? But right. I'm
stepping up.
I'm proud that you. Yeah, I mean, you're coming into your own. You're growing up right before my eyes. Growing up.
Yeah, it only took 15 years in front of your eyes.
Yeah. Another 20 and honestly, someday maybe you'll be a big, strong guy, just like Pete Alonso.
Maybe if I'm lucky. If I start doing my bench.
So, you've got on there, so strong performers. We highlighted Berkey, Ostrak a little bit, and Totland in his head. Was there anybody else for you or any moments that you want to talk about? Because there's one that I think is a big deal and fun to talk about.
I mean, we can talk about the fun moments and then let's talk about the not fun moment, I think.
Yeah.
So the fun moment.
It's like a compliment sandwich without the second compliment.
Yes. It's an open-faced compliment sandwich, right? Isn't that what they call them? Whenever they don't have a top piece, it's an open-faced sandwich. That's what this is. It's an open-faced compliment sandwich. So we will hopefully have goal of the week from one of our players, and Joachim Nielsen. Celio, I believe. Did I say his name before you? I said his name before you. That
you did.
Has to be a first.
I was hoping you were going to talk about just Nielsen and I could get him with Celio, but that's fine.
Yeah, well, I knew if I did that, you would like throw his name out there, so I thought I'd steal it from you. Delivers a corner kick over. Sam, who literally came on like on that play, like it was that stoppage in play that Sam comes into the game. Him and Nicholas Dewar, who we're going to talk about after this, gets on the end of it, heads it back across the face of the goal, and Joachim Nielsen delivers a very casual looking bicycle kick. Like no effort, just casually, just a center back out here kicking bikes, scoring goals. It has to be goal of the week. Like I think the first thing I sent you when it came through, when it happened, was what the absolute fuck was that? Because like I was so shocked.
I am going to correct you on the corner kick thing though, because AZ Jackson took that corner.
Oh, really? Oh,
if you watch the replay, Celio was getting ready to try to do something wicked with his leg to try to whip it in, and Nielsen cuts him off.
Well, Nielsen's a much bigger guy. He's got better reach. Like,
also, he was in the air doing a bicycle kick before the ball reached Celio. So I thought Celio as a whole looked good in this game.
Yeah.
I didn't think he looked great, but I thought he looked good, which is some days, again, you and I've talked about this a lot, right? Some days you have your best stuff and other days you don't. And it's what you do on those days that you don't have your best stuff. And I felt like Celio didn't have his best stuff, but still had a good game.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought he was there. I don't think he got plenty of touches. He did the things that he was supposed to do. He just didn't do anything special this game. And that's fine. Like, you're not going to get to do that every time, right?
Yeah, I thought AZ Jackson looked good again.
I thought AZ looked good. Indy looked pretty good. Indy got on some good spots as well. Klaus still looks a little off to me. He looks like he just doesn't look like he's been putting in the same effort and like work rate that he was early last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've noticed with Klaus is that he and AZ and he and Sam are neither of those combinations are clicking well for him. It's like they're trying to go to the same areas. There was a point where a couple of times where like Klaus would play the ball off to Celio or to Indy wide, and then he would run wide and bring the defenders right on top of him. And it's like, no, run to the goal or run to the near post and create some space. And that's the kind of thing he did so well last year that I'm just not seeing out of him.
Right.
The other thing was
consistently. Oh, go ahead.
It was like you mentioned Indy. And just real quick, I was like, Indy was the one guy who was making those runs. There was multiple times where like he came dashing across near post and had a touch or a flick and just barely missed the target, right? Where I think that could happen. And that's where I feel like I was not sad to see Gioacchini go. I was actually really excited for him. But that's where he played so well off of others that we're missing.
Right. And Indy was doing that last week against Austin as well. So like this is 2 games in a row that he's been doing that. So I almost wonder if it's been a little bit by design. Although Klaus did not play as much against Austin. But if they're trying to use Klaus, because obviously he's the one that everyone's going to key off on to create that space and kind of use him as a, like a distraction, I guess is the best word for the defense. Because Indy's had some really good looks. AZ has had some really good looks running into space in the box. The other thing I really like before we get into negative stuff is Durkin taking shots from outside the box. And even though he hasn't really been as accurate as we would like so far this season, you have to keep them honest. And if they're going to, just crowd in front of the goalkeeper, like just keep ripping shots through. Eventually someone's going to have to step in. That's going to create different space for people to run into as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Durkin's willingness to rip those shots. I feel like we don't have enough guys who are willing to just take those shots. Honestly, I wish Indy would do it more. And the other person, and he took one this past game, but would love to see him if he gets space just outside the box, is Klaus.
Oh, yeah. If Klaus feels confident he can make the shot, like he has free reign to take that shot whenever he feels like period. Like that's not even a question, I think, for this team.
All right, so let's talk. Yeah, yeah, and I have some things on Sam too, but my biggest thing with Sam, so he came on, had that great header. He
Yep.
had an initial almost really good run, but just got heavy on the touch right after he came on.
Right.
Um, but like there was another time, and again, it happens to the best of players. It happens in every league. But there was, late in the game, he had a breakaway. It was him alone, one-on-one, the goalie. Essentially, he got defenders crashing on him, but had a
Right.
window and sent it like 20 rows deep.
Right. Yeah.
That one hurt.
That was bad. And while we're on the topic of Sam, so Caceres had the tactical foul on Sam at the end of the game on his other break for what could have been a game-winning goal. Like, anyone who thinks, like, okay, you can talk about the spirit of the game and, like, should you be doing that sort of thing and whatever, and is it morally ethical and blah, 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 blah. And the answer is yes, because the point is to save the freaking game. Our issue with that foul isn't so much that my issue with this foul is not that he committed it to keep Sam from getting one-on-one with the keeper. It's that he basically tackled him as if they were in the NFL, when I think he probably could have done it less physically. I get that you don't have a lot of time to make that decision, and there's no room for error.
No, I just disagree. You're a professional soccer player. You know exactly what you're doing. You've done this before. And if you watch most tactical fouls in those types of situations, even if they know they're going to get a straight red, whatever, you see a lot of guys who come in and either like come in and bear hug somebody and just hold them up, or come in and just grab their jerseys and kind of spin them around with their jerseys.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was like kind of thinking too, watching it, is like, he could have very easily just tried to grab his jersey. He could have very easily just tried to take out his legs without, but physically harming him the way he clearly did.
And we're talking about a hothead on their team though. I mean, like, so that guy got a yellow card early in the game, and I mean, would not stop running his mouth. I mean, Sam got a yellow card for dissent late in the game, which was a bogus yellow card. But their team was, it was 100% bullshit. And then their team is like in the ref's face, screaming, yelling, throwing fits the whole game, and not a single like yellow card for dissent.
Right. I think Sam got that yellow card because of how Galaxy had been playing. Right. You know what I mean? Like, the Galaxy used up all of the goodwill or the allowance for that. And as soon as Sam started, then he was like, nope, I'm drawing the line here, which is bullshit. You should draw it on the people who are like doing it.
You have to have it's like you have to understand as a referee that there's two different teams here.
Right.
So,
but anyway, let's talk about the negative, but the positive light that we could be seeing here.
There's positive under the negative. I've said this before, and we've talked about it before. Nielsen is not a fast player.
No,
he makes up for it with his smarts, with his positioning, with his anticipation. Right. We've seen it time and time again where there might be a much faster player, but he's able to position himself, get himself in a good spot. Paintsill is a different animal, and he had zero help from his left back and got left hung out to dry because of it. Marcanic, I like Marcanic. I think he is a firecracker. I think he brings a lot of energy and life to our team, but he does not read the game all the time super well. And if you watch all of those plays by Paintsill, when Paintsill just blew by him, Marcanic's still backpedaling as Paintsill's running at him with a full head of steam. And I'm like, dude, you got to turn and start running. Anybody who has played football, right? It's you backpedal, and as soon as your cushion gets closed, you turn and run.
Right.
Marcanic's cushion was getting shrunk, and he was not turning and running. Right. Like,
well, and not just that, but it was like, he's late to turn and run. He's taking really kind of bad angles, I feel like, where he's trying to run kind of at Paintsill instead of trying to like run like where Paintsill's going to go. Like, you're slower than him. You're not you can't run at him. You have to run at where he's going. Like, and there was one time, to be fair, where Marcanic tried to do that and Paintsill just ran around him. And I was just like, yeah, that's which is an anticipation thing. He anticipated way too late to have made that play, but at the same time, I was kind of like, well, that guy's just really, really fast.
He is, but you and I were talking about it too. He's fast, but he's not like, we're not talking like otherworldly fast, right? Like, he's fast for MLS, but there's a lot of players that are a lot faster than him out there in the world. Just even, looking at his top speed, I think we were talking, his top speed was, I think you did the initial math. If you ran his top speed over 100 meters, it's like a 10.5, which in reality is, it's probably closer to like a 10.9, 10.8, 10.9 because of, acceleration and whatnot over 100-meter dash.
Right.
But we're talking, like probably like 4.5, maybe 4.40 at best. But in the NFL, there's guys who run much slower 40s that cover guys who run much faster 40s every single day because they understand when to turn and when how to take angles and how those angles affect things. And Marcanic just doesn't have that. And again, I don't blame him for not having it. I think what was hard for me to watch was how long it took us to make the change.
Right. And you and I were saying, at least offline for a while, that this would probably be the game where Marcanic loses his starting job. Obviously, you guys who have been listening have heard us say, you follow the team, you've heard it from there, that during the offseason we signed a left back from Denmark, Niklas Dewar, who we expected to come in and just be the starter. But his preseason got delayed because of work visas and all the other crap that goes along with, moving to a new country. And Marcanic had a good camp, and then Marcanic played well. And BC is not going to mess with the back line if they're in sync and they're playing well. You don't mess with it until it's broken. Which I do really like that he let Marcanic, keep his spot until he didn't, right? But yeah, and granted, it's not like coach has said that Marcanic is not going to be the starter moving forward. We know how he operates, and this is the time that he's going to do it.
Yeah, and so, and for those of you who didn't watch the game, so we did sub on Niklas Dewar, and the first time they played Paint Still into Space, Niklas Dewar did exactly what we said, Marcanic needed to do. He turned, he anticipated, understood that he's not as fast as Paint Still, took the correct angle, ran to where he was going, and cut him off as he was trying to cut into goal.
Right.
Played it perfectly.
Made several good slide tackles when Paintsel tried to turn from running upfield to cut inside. On a lot, both in run of play and on dead balls, you could see him sitting there screaming at everyone else who to watch. And there's the one play that I'm thinking of where Dewar's running kind of with Paintsel, and Paintsel kind of slows down a little bit to try to cut in, and you can see Dewar and Nielsen both kind of trying to close that space, and Dewar gestures at Nielsen go there, I'm going here, and so that way they can cover it. And that's something that you never saw from Marcanic, period. And but you need to be able to do that.
But we haven't seen that from our left or right backs as a whole until Totland really got here. Totland, you see, do it off and on with the center backs. But just, I think you said it offline with us, right? You're the one thing that I'm excited about with these backs is the fact that they're willing to communicate back to the center backs. So it's not a one-way communication anymore, right? It's going both ways. You didn't say in those words, but I know what you meant.
Right.
It's a two-way conversation, right? It's back and forth. It's, hey, I'm going here, you go here. Hey, I'm pushing here. And we haven't had that. There's been a lot of, Parker and Nielsen bringing those outside backs along, hey, you need to go here, and just kind of telling them what to do. But having people who have the experience. And the other thing that I pointed out was Niklas Dewar and Thomas Totland are not old. Totland's only 24. For those of you who are unaware, Marcanic is 24. Niklas Dewar's 22. Well. Niklas Dewar's 22.
Yeah, that's true. Ahead of him, for sure.
And so, defend. defensive players tend to hit their peaks more towards the mid to late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's the case, you're expecting Dewar to kind of hit his peak 27. So he's still got his best years ahead of him, right? Like
right. He's still developing. Yeah. And like, not only that, but, we kind of, speaking of these guys and how much Totland and I think Dewar are changing our team, Marcanic and Watts and all the guys from last year that we really saw a lot of them are more wing back types. They're more attacking outside backs. Totland and Dewar can do both. And that's something that we were missing last year is we had to choose either like a defensive outside back or an offensive outside back. And so I'm really excited about that. I think Totland, when you watch him play, if the center back moves out wide for like a streaking winger or something, Totland rotates in, like very consistently rotates in to help cover the space that they're vacating. That's a thing that I don't think we saw a lot last year. I did find it funny that when they subbed on Dewar and, Dewar starts shutting Paintel down, that they then move Paintel to the other side to play with Totland. Yeah. And then Totland shuts him down too. And then it's like, okay, so nothing's going to happen here. And, for Dewar, he's fresh. Paintel's been running for an hour before this. Like, I get that. But like at the same time, that got me really excited that like, hey, we've got guys who can play. And I think Nielsen took a lot of flack for covering for Marcanic and Hebert last year. That was unfair. So I like that too.
No, I think looking at our starting four in the back moving forward with Dewar, Totland, Parker, and Nielsen, I feel like we potentially have the best across the back starting four in MLS right now.
Right, because most teams in MLS, so without going too deep into MLS roster rules, which is its whole own thing, MLS roster rules very much incentivize you to spend your money on attacking players. So generally, the defensive players are lower in quality relative to the attacking players. And I don't think that's true for our team. I think our style leaves us open a fair amount, and I think that's fair. But I mean, you've got, three of our top 5 highest paid players are 2 center backs and Berkey. So like, and Dewar and Totland are legit. Like they are very easily going to be top level in this league for their positions.
Well, and one of our DPs is primarily played at the 8 to ensure that we are strong defensively moving up with Leuven. Although I still think, and I'm not sure that he's as comfortable with it, but I personally like Leuven at the 10, which is where he started last season. He started there and we started out 5-0, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
Right. Well, no, he did not start out at the 10 last year. Ostrak was the 10 in the first game.
Was Ostrak the 10?
Yeah. And after that, we started rotating between the 4-2-2 and the 4-2-3-1.
For those of you who, again, I did have feedback from a listener about soccer stuff. So when we talk about formations in soccer, it starts with the defense and works its way up. So 4-4-2 is 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, 2 forwards or 2 strikers. A 4-2-3-1, which is what I feel like we need to be playing, and I've talked about it a lot, is 4 defenders, 2 defensive midfielders, 3 more attacking midfielders, and then a single lone striker up top.
Right.
But just throw out some additional tidbits there. Sorry.
Yes. Appreciate that. No, because a lot of our listeners probably aren't heavy soccer fans. I know we've got some, but yeah, so I think, and I kind of think that this is part of why I think Ostrak has looked so good lately as well, when he's been subbing for Leuven. So my issue when Ostrak has been in the attacking midfield spot is he's been hard to find, I think, because we've had a disconnect between the center backs and the attacking midfield. If they can't get through the defensive midfield players to Ostrak, well, you move Ostrak farther back into the 8 that Leuven normally plays, and suddenly it's a lot easier to get him the ball, and then he can just take it wherever he wants. And I think that's part of why he has looked so good lately, even though he did not, score highly in touches. He did not score highly in progressive passes, but I just think when he gets the ball, he looks so much better from that position.
He looks better, and he looks more comfortable pressing than he did previously this year.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a big difference because we talk a lot about the press. Something else with the box to box thing is like you said with Bert, you talked about getting the ball sooner and pushing forward is Leuven. It's a lot easier for him to pick those long balls where he can lay it into Big Sam and people if he's getting the ball further back. And I think so. I talk about a 4-2-3-1, which is what I see them playing, but I don't, I almost feel like it's going to be a 4-2 and then a diamond in front with, your striker in front and Leuven kind of sitting back a little bit, allowing Indy and Celio to invert.
Yeah. Yeah. It's we're a very fluid team formationally because, depending on where you are when in the press and when you get the ball back, I think our formations are more defensive formations than they are our offensive formations, is maybe a better way to say it. We are not a particularly structural team when it comes to moving the ball forward. It's very much figure it out, be creative, go do your thing. But we are a little bit more structurally sound defensively in that regard. But now I'm thinking about that instead of focusing on talking. So
no, you're good. And I think, again, as a whole, it was a good game. And I think something else that a lot of people are like, oh man, we need to get back in the win column. Something that this City team has shown us already. First of all, we haven't lost a game in league play.
Not.
And actually, for that matter, we have looked like a dominant team in league play overall. But there's you could make an argument that we were in position to potentially win every game, including Saturday night, as we had a lead going into extra time.
Yeah.
So the thing that I think about is, and something that our team really struggled to prove to me last year, is that we could draw games when we didn't have our best stuff.
Right. Well,
we were a win or lose team.
Yeah. Not only are we able to draw games, every single one of these draws, City called that point back from a losing position. Last year, if we did not score first, we lost the game, like almost every time. And so like all three of these games, we fell behind. We came back late and we scored and we tied and we took the point. And two of these games were on the road in LA at Sports Dignity Health Park and in Q2 Stadium where Austin plays. And like those are not easy places to play. Like that's impressive. That's hard to do. So very excited about this team. I'm glad they're home City Park this week playing DC. We're going to get to see Stroud and Bartlett again. I hope someone warns Dewar about Stroud's bullshit because he's going to need it. But yeah, I am done.
Scary Jerry's coming back to town, man.
Yes.
Scary Jerry is coming back to town. Speaking of coming back to town, and we've all been waiting for it, Cardinals season is finally getting ready to kick off. We need to do our season preview and see if we can catch Sheldon here shortly.
Almost out of time.
Yeah.
Sheldon, honestly, even next week.
Even if we're a couple days late on it, there's 162 games. If we do our season preview 3 games in, it's going to be just fine.
That's true.
But some interesting news coming out of Cardinals camp. Initially, Tommy Edman is officially going to miss opening day, which was supposed to be a minor surgery, and he's supposed to be our everyday center fielder. We will not have him, period.
Yeah, and there's no timetable on that. So like he's not even like begun swinging a bat again, really. I guess he's got a lot of inflammation there in his wrist, and it's basically like they let him, practice a little bit. Then he gets the inflammation built up. He's in pain. You got to break down that scar tissue. Then they have to shut him down. It's a little concerning.
Speaking of breaking down scar tissue, Totlin still may have some scar tissue he's got to break down coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Boom. Look at you. So I don't know. I'm really concerned about this injury for Edmund. It's definitely not progressing the way the team thought it would. I did read something that basically said like Edmund was cleared for all baseball activities except for hitting and throwing or something like that. And it's like, what the fuck else do you do in baseball? Like,
I just thought back. So, I'm a movie quote guy.
You are a movie quote guy.
So my all-time favorite baseball movie is not your all-time favorite baseball movie, and I know this, and that's fine. But my all-time favorite baseball movie is Bull Durham.
It's a good movie.
Great movie.
It's a good movie. Did you know that, was it Crawford? Crawford has a dog named Crash that he adopted when he was playing for Durham. I think it was Crawford, which it's just like an elite move.
Oh, 100%. So, but in that movie, there is a scene where the manager of this minor league team throws all the bats into the shower, trying to cause a scene. He goes, "You throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball. It's a simple game." And so that's all that's running through my head is you're like, right. Edmund's cleared for baseball activities except for throwing and hitting. And I'm like, right. So he can catch the ball.
He can catch the ball. Yes, because it is the opposite wrist. So he's allowed to do that. Out of curiosity, what do you think is my favorite baseball movie of all time?
Field of Dreams.
I mean, okay, first, if I can see why you picked that.
And if not, it's the what's it called? The one about the guy retiring. Why am I blanking on the name?
A League of Their Not A League of Their Own. Oh my god! Although that's also fantastic. For Love of the Game is the actual one. Yeah, and that is the correct answer.
So it was between Field of Dreams and For the Love of the Game for me. Right. For you,
if you're a man, like roughly our age, plus or minus 5 years, like even if it's not like your like true favorite movie, Field of Dreams is like the movie that like we associate baseball with.
Oh yeah,
like it impacted all of our lives, 100%.
Yeah, well, and his
not going to go into the emotional roller coaster of Field of Dreams.
No, I'm still stuck on Bull Durham and all of the amazing scenes in that movie. Like his eyelids, he can't breathe through his eyes. We're trying to figure out a wedding gift for this. We're dealing with a lot of shit here at the mound visit.
That's true. My favorite is whenever he tells him not, he calls a pitch and he gets shaken off. And so then he, lets him throw it and it goes for a home run. Yeah.
But he tells the batter what's coming.
Yeah. Right. And then he gets the home run and then he's like, man, if only someone told you not to throw that pitch or whatever he says after.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love that whole
part
movie.
Right after the guy hits the home run and he's like telling the guy, go run. Don't show up my pitcher after I give you a gift.
Right. You know what? We should do a baseball movies episode.
Oh, we should.
I'm thinking right now.
So here's another great scene from that movie. For those of you who haven't seen it, and those of you who have will appreciate this. This is if there's one line that my dad and I quote back and forth to each other all the time, it's this line. But the pitcher is having an absolutely unreal game, shutting people down, striking them out left and right. And he calls time and he goes up and has a mound visit and he goes, hit the bull. And Bull Durham, the Durham Bulls, their mascot's this giant bull. And the pitcher's like, what? And he's like, hit the bull. And so he just drills the mascot in the head, like knocks him out.
Right.
And then he looks up at the hitter. He's like, dude, this guy's crazy. I don't know where he's going with his pitches today. And then like everyone scooched back in the box a little.
Right. Yeah.
But my dad and I, every now and then, like we're like, you're trying to like reset expectations. It's always hit the bull.
Right. There's a quote from Role Models that's very similar. Because they have that Minotaur as like energy drink. They do something very similar with the quote from that. Doesn't matter. It's not the purpose of this podcast.
Today,
at least. Yeah. Incoming movie reviews soon. New playlist on YouTube. I think we do need to update a little bit with our pitching staff as well. So Sonny Gray still probably out opening day. Like, they just haven't confirmed it. Middleton is going to start off on the IL.
They did confirm that Sonny Gray will not be available opening day, and Michaelis is the opening day starter.
Oh, did they? Okay, I must have missed that.
Katie Wu today, I think.
Okay.
Katie Wu, it may have been yesterday. Either yesterday or today, it was announced Miles Michaelis is the opening day starter. Sonny Gray is unavailable to be starting opening day, but they're not ruling out that he may or may not still pitch during that opening road trip. They're unsure.
Right. Because we start off with 4 against LA and then 3 against San Diego. So, like, if he can start at any point in those 7 games, like, he doesn't have to go on the IL. So, fingers crossed for that. Middleton starting off on the IL, though, that's concerning because he was supposed to be a big part of our bullpen. Supposedly it's just like Gray, though, that they caught it early. It's some sort of strain in his forearm.
I will point out that Andre Palante has looked very good this spring, so maybe he can give us some innings by Middleton's healing up.
I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, we'll have to see if the death ball holds up in, like, real games. But if it does, like, good, you know. Our bullpen is fine. Like, okay, so Libby and Thompson, one or both of them is going to get some starts in April. There's a good chance that one or both of them is in the pen. They're probably going to bounce back and forth between AAA and the majors. That's fine. Like, we can handle that. Just really sucks how many injuries we have, and it's March because it's a long season and we're gonna have.
Almost like you have a really old team that might be more injury prone.
No, I heard we had one of the youngest teams in the league this year.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think our average age.
League.
Yeah. So we're playing in the senior circuit this year, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. So one of the youngest teams, average age of only like 37. So we're good. Everyone else is in their 40s.
It's only 37? No.
Only 37. Surprisingly young.
Oh, but, it's Jordan Walker and Mason Wynn. I forgot about those two. They're bringing us down.
Right. Yeah. One of my cousins made the best joke the other day, though, about the age of this team. And it was in response to some news that we're about to talk about where the Cardinals have extended Ollie another 2 years. But the joke was, so I don't remember exactly how he led into it, but basically, whose bright idea was it to re-sign the guy who is such a leader that you had to sign half of an AARP retirement home for leadership, in quotes, leadership purposes during the season? And I was like, yeah, that's the problem.
It's, to me, there's good and bad with this, right?
Right.
The good is maybe it gives Ollie a little confidence just to do his job and not be looking over his shoulder to start the year. The other good thing that I can see is this is, to me, the front office admitting that this isn't their fault, or that it is their fault, that everything was their fault last year. Saying, yeah, it wasn't Ollie, it was us. Which is still false because the whole, for example, Contreras situation that Ollie let get out of hand was his fault.
At least, it's not fully true, but it's not fully wrong either.
I don't think they realize that's what they're doing. But my other thing is like, how unaware of your fan base do you have to be to announce this? Because you could sign the contract and just not wait till the Cardinals hit a nice win streak, 4, 5, 6 games, and announce it then when people are feeling good. No, you're going to announce it during the spring training while you're already being scrutinized about everything because of the season you just had, which this guy was your manager during. Right. And assume that everything's like, you have no pulse on your fan base. It goes back to the fact that John Mozeliak doesn't give a shit about anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, like, I think it is recognizing, one, that last year was not fully his fault. I think it is recognizing that April is going to be rough for us. It's a very tough schedule. We have a lot of key injuries right now. And I think their goal is probably to try to make him feel comfortable and secure so he can focus on doing his job to the best of his abilities. My concern with it is that makes your default position, your momentum, like where your default going to do is going to be continuing with Ali, right? The barrier, the obstacles to change that you're going to have is to firing him. Teams don't make changes. They tend to stay with where they're at unless things go really bad. And so then it's like, so how bad does this year have to be then to fire him, right? Like an 84 win season is like the floor to me. So and like really it's probably an 85 or an 86 win season should be the floor. So if they go 500, like that's not good enough, but I think that is probably good enough for them to justify keeping him.
It's good enough for Mo to justify keeping him.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But it for most organizations, no, that's not going to be enough. If we just extended you, we're doing these things, and what Mo's going to say is, look, we were better than we were last year. Well, no shit. Anybody could have been better than you guys were last year. Last year was an absolute dumpster fire.
Right. Well, and we could have been a 78, 79, 80 win team last year if they hadn't sold at the deadline, right?
Like, correct. So, whatever. It's just mind-boggling to me that Mo thinks that we're just going to keep buying the same crap hook, line, and sinker. And you know what? You prove me wrong, right? I'm not going to complain if we come out, we just start knock the socks off. But I mean, like, if we come back from this opening road trip against two very good baseball teams, and we come back to St. Louis at 1-6, how smart is he going to look then? Because that's a realistic possibility right now.
That is, like, I could see us being 2-5 at the end of that stretch. I could see us losing both series and winning one game. I could see us being swept in one of the series too. Like, it's not an unreasonable expectation. And I mean,
I think what we need to see is, ideally in a perfect world, we come back and we're 3-4, 4-3 coming back home to start the home portion of the season. Right. But I very realistic, especially if Sonny Gray's hurt, could see a world where we come back 1-6 or 2-5.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, like, so let's say we go 1-6 in those first, two series. Well, after San Diego, we play Miami. After Miami, we play Philadelphia. After Philly, we play Arizona, who just had a fantastic season. After Arizona, we play Oakland. Okay, we should beat them. And then we play Milwaukee. We should beat them. But then it's Arizona again. Then it's the Mets, who knows what they're going to be, but they should be good in theory. And then it's Detroit. Like there's a lot of series in there that, like, if you said we get swept that series, I'd be like, yeah, okay.
You listed 3 series out of all of those that are against non-playoff teams from last year.
Right. And so
you have Oakland, you have the Mets, and you have who was the last one you just listed?
Detroit.
3 series against teams that were not in the playoffs last year.
Yeah. And I mean, like, Milwaukee is worse than they were last year, right? Like Milwaukee is much worse. But still,
it's a rivalry game. It's a division rival, and anything can happen in those games. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and act like we're going to all of a sudden be, sitting pretty and looking wonderful at this stuff. Do you know what we could do at this point to try to bolster things and be ready for the season?
Sign someone.
Sign Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah, who's the only one left because Cease got traded to the Padres and Snell signed.
Yeah, so we get to see the Giants. We'll get to see Cease,
both of them
in that first series.
Yeah,
our second series, sorry, but that first road trip. And Blake Snell just went to the Giants for 2 years, $62 million. If you got approached and it was 3 years, $90 million for Montgomery, would you do it?
Yeah, I'd do it, but I'm not Mo. So
That's
I
fine.
mean,
I
what's
would
our
have paid a
payroll?
lot.
I mean, our payroll's what, at 170 million, right? And they're not. So they've set a hard line at the tax threshold for the cap. So like maybe 25 they could get it done, but that Monty's not going to take that. He could take that in New York or Boston. It's going to be New York or Boston that sign them because they have a need. They have more money.
They have a
Like,
need. They have more money, but he has also expressed that he prefers the markets like the Rangers and the Cardinals.
right. Yeah, I saw that too. The small markets. Not that either one of those are small markets, but let me ask you this though. Speaking of those first like series, this is just a thought I've had. So that first series against Arizona, that's 16 games into the season. Okay, how many of those games you think we're going to win? That's LA, San Diego, Miami, Philly, Arizona.
And how many games is that total? It's at 16, right? Because those
16.
last three are all 3-game series. Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm saying realistically, 6 or 7 games with how our teams performed in spring and with the injuries we have.
If we get out of there with 7 games, I mean, that's only one game under 500. Like, that's like
It's
great.
2, but yeah.
No, 7 and 9.
7 and 9.
That's one game under 500. If you win one more game, you're 500.
If you win one more game, you're at 8 and 9. You're 2 games below 500.
It's a 16. No, it's 16 games. So if you win one more,
so you're
so if you win one more
judging
game,
it.
you get one less loss.
You're saying you're basing it off that series. I'm saying you end your record. Your record is 2 games below 500 to like move forward in the season. You're saying for that stretch, you're 1 game below, which are 2 different things.
I don't think what you're saying mathematically adds up because you can't have 17 games in a 16 game stretch. So
no, what you're okay. So you're saying we end at 7 and 9. And you're saying that we're 1 game below 500 moving into the rest of our season. What I'm saying is we're still 2 games below 500 moving into the next part of the season.
We're 1 win away from being a 500 win team of that first 16 games.
Over the first 16 is what you're saying.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is different.
Yeah,
So you and I are looking at it 2 different ways. I'm saying we're ending that stretch 2 games below 500.
Right. Because on a final, like, of your overall record,
the end of in the overall record.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to win 2 more to be 500. Yeah. I don't think 7 wins. 7 wins would be fantastic. I
think 6 is probably more realistic.
I mean, I could see us having 5. Like we have to, like, to get to 7 wins, you have to win at least one of those series, probably 2 of those series. I could easily see us losing every series out of that.
Well, you said 5 series, right?
Yeah.
You could win 1 game out of each series, and there's 5.
Right. And then you have to win at least one of the others.
Yeah, if you win one, if somebody else sputters at the start, you hope that somebody else is sputtering harder than you. You get 6 or 7 wins.
Could.
I don't see us losing our first 6 series. I think we sneak a series win in there somewhere.
Well, yeah, the 6th series against Oakland. We don't lose our first 6 series because we beat Oakland.
No, I wouldn't. Don't get your hopes up too fast. First 5 series, sorry, but I could see us winning one of them. I don't know. It'll be interesting. The other nice thing about spring sports right now is that we do have football once again.
Caw.
The Battlehawks are back. We haven't talked much about it, but there's some exciting things going on with the league right now. So the XFL and the USFL merged into the UFL, which is the United Football League. They announced that their championship game this year will be played in none other than St. Louis. If you guys missed that on the news, so we are actually getting the UFL championship game right here in St. Louis due to the fan support that we've had. Huge, super exciting if those of you who were not aware. Other exciting news is with this merger, XFL players, so they cut down the number of XFL teams in half. We've ended up with the like top 3 receivers from the XFL last year on the Battlehawks
Right.
this year.
Yeah. They've done
And
a really
AJ
good job
McCarron's
this
coming
offseason.
back.
Yeah.
And we're getting our quarterback back.
Right. And we're getting our quarterback back. Yes. I mean, there's every reason to be confident in this Battlehawks team. Like, they look very strong for this league. I will say that the season is longer than I expected as well. That's a 10-game season, which is nice. The first game is the 24th. No, the 30th. Excuse me, the 30th. So it's 2 weeks out, about end of next week. And then it's a game every week until June. 2 teams in Texas. That makes sense. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I think we've got a good chance of being a very competitive team in this league, and hopefully we get to watch that game at home.
Yeah. Well, and so here's I wanted your thoughts on this. What do you think about the hub and spoke model they run right now? So for those of you who are unaware, the XFL and now the UFL has a base camp in Texas where all the teams kind of have all their training facilities, everything together. Right. And then they fly out to their home stadiums or, wherever for the weekends and for the games.
I mean, from a development standpoint, it kind of makes sense. From you want everyone to be able to see all the players standpoint and like create this internal market for players. I think that kind of makes sense. It also might help control costs because it might prevent some of them from spending a bunch of money they don't have on training facilities. I think
for a developmental league, for a developmental league, I think it makes a lot of sense right now because it helps control costs, like you said. And the other thing is the goal of most of these guys is to get to the NFL, and it means that the scouts can all come to one place to check them out.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I hadn't considered that. Scouts can watch anyone from any team like in a single trip. Or it wouldn't surprise me if some of these teams have a scout permanently assigned to for the season to the UFL. And
there's not a lot else going on for the scouts to be doing right now, right?
Right.
They go into pro days and this.
Right. Right. And I mean, the draft is like what, probably about a month out. It's normally like end of April. So
yeah.
And like NFL teams have money. Like they could just hire an extra scout. Like
no, but they'll be fine. They have more money. They know what to do with. Speaking of NFL teams having lots of money and doing weird things, the Broncos, and again, not sports we normally cover, but it's just entertaining to me. Broncos cut Russell Wilson, are paying him some obscene amount of $40 or $50 million so that the Steelers can pay him the league minimum contract for him to play. And then Justin Fields, former first-round pick, was traded for a 6th-round pick so they could try again at quarterback.
I mean, when you miss in the NFL, you miss badly. Like, there's no, like, little in, little out. It's they're big swing and misses every time.
Yeah, well, and the thing is like, to miss with a draft pick like that can be detrimental to your franchise. But I mean, like, there's some franchises that just say fuck them picks and just don't even care about what they do with their future and how they mortgage it because they're greedy bastards. And yes, I am referencing the one and only Stan Kroenke and the team he owns and the LA Rams. And you know what? That guy, I could care less for. And you know what? He can be a greedy bastard all he wants, but I hope that the Rams continue to never win again. And with that, Stan Kroenke, we hate you. Good night, everyone.